Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Coin Drop Podcast. This is what I'm going to officially say, as we've discussed it a couple of times now. This is our official last beta episode. After this, we will be launching full episodes. Not that anything will change, just no longer being called a beta. We're done. Not in beta anymore, baby. I feel like we have... I think, Tim, you're right. We've nailed this down a little bit now. So I think it's time to move on. I think it's time to just go ahead and say we're full release doing this
Not
thing.
leave, mind you.
No.
We're calling ourselves better.
Yes.
Therefore we are.
Correct. Fake it till you make it, baby. So for our listeners, it has been 2 weeks. For us, it's been 2 weeks as well. Tim, what have you been up to, man? It's been a while. We took the last week off. Yeah.
Basically, I've been desperately trying to get my house ready to sell, painting it and all sorts of crazy stuff. And in a matter of about 6 hours, we sold our house and signed for another one. In the same span. It was like, hey, we're ready. And everyone's like, okay, we want it. And we're like, okay. Way faster than we expected. I mean, my garage is a mess of shit. The rest of the house looks pretty, though.
Nice. I mean, you got to store your stuff somewhere, right? So, it's been rough out here. Last Friday, we had a really nasty fire out here. It burned over 10,000 acres, 200 structures. It's a big deal. We've got another one. That one's finally contained, and there was another one north of here, too. So, my company that I work for actually lost 4 network sites in that fire. We've been scrambling to try and get internet backup for people and get installs for people that were affected and get free internet for people who were affected. It's been a busy week. It's been a long, busy week. But that being said, for those of you joining us on the Twitch and watching this on YouTube, you'll see once again I've got our generic screen up because, let's be honest, there have been so many announcements.
It was a busy week.
Couldn't even be bothered to try and pick 3. So we're just going to cover a ton of shit. Starting with...
Busy episode.
Busy episode. Gamescom is apparently, they said it enough times, I believe them, it's apparently the largest convention in the industry now, since E3 is gone. They said it about 20 times in the first 30 minutes of, Opening Night Live, or whatever the hell it was that I was just watching. So yeah, it's a big deal, and they showed a lot, and I've been trying to keep up with it, but Tim, I think you found something that is kind of blowing up all over the place right now in regards to Starfield.
Yes. Well, that was a strange segue from Gamescom to Starfield.
But, I mean, they opened with Starfield, kind of. It's fine.
They did. They had a live action trailer, which I actually didn't watch.
It was actually pretty cool. It was actually fairly cool.
Pretty good.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it must have been so good that it caused you to make your face naked and shaved. It looks weird.
Nope, that was the smoke. Yeah, that was the air QI of like 400 and something out here. It was real nasty. Yeah, it's real nasty. So,
all right. Well, anyway, so Starfield. So there's actually quite a bit of information about it because I'm actually going to start with there's a guy who is stupid, and
that's generally the case.
Yeah, basically, especially because he was all over like Twitter and YouTube and all that stuff, and he's like, "Hey, follow me, come watch this," even though the game's under NDA and all that other stuff. So the reason he's stupid is because he stole copies of this game so he could leak information on it. So he's actually been arrested on felony charges. But thanks to him, we have quite a bit of information on the game now. Several days early, like a week and a half early. The game goes on early access, or I think it's early access for people who have the collector's edition, or whatever they're calling that. I can't remember. On the 1st, and then it goes live for everybody else on the 6th. Game Pass, you buy it in the store, whatever. So, anyways, this is an official, like, proper leak because the dude literally bought an Xbox, which is kind of weird because he stole the game. But anyways,
he's a true American hero. God damn it!
Right. he's in the video. It's a 40+ minute video. He's got an unopened Xbox, an unopened copy of the game. He opens it up, does his unboxing thing, and then plugs everything in, gets everything set up. You watch him do the character creation, everything else. You can watch the opening scene and everything else. And it's... So my first impression was everything looks so plastic. And I don't mean that necessarily the graphics were bad, but like when I've been seeing stuff like, say, Spider-Man and God of War and Final Fantasy, everything's got this more gritty realism to it where skin looks realistic. You can see pores and everything like that.
Right.
The game lacks that. And again, it doesn't necessarily look like bad. Someone actually made a copy, or they created, because a whole bunch of people did get their copies to review the game
Right.
like 4 or 5 days ago, and so people have been showing little things, but not really. They're more like, hey, my review is going to go up on the first or whatever. Anyways, someone created Todd Howard, and it was a really really good make. Like it was very well done.
Yeah,
and there's been plenty of.
he mentioned
Sorry, go
that.
ahead.
Yeah, he mentioned that at Gamescom. He's like, yeah, I don't know if that's real or not, and everybody just kind of laughed. So,
So it was very well done if it was real.
right.
Either way, it's mostly the characters that look that way. The skin tones and everything else just don't look super great. It does have your pretty standard. So here, let me just stop going so specific. Characters still look robotic. It's your typical
take a deep breath, Tim.
it's your typical Bethesda robotic characters. They don't really have a whole lot of life to them. It's what you expect from Bethesda.
I took an arrow
Not
to the knee.
Yes, very much like that. The voice acting is half decent. I mean, it's nothing to write home about, but it's not terrible either, and so it's serviceable. I'm not really going to say much more.
Sure.
Combat to me, maybe this guy was just absolutely awful at games. Like it reminded me of that Cuphead demo that one guy played,
Where he couldn't figure out how to jump dash or whatever it was.
Yeah. It was his gameplay reminded me of that. He was awful. It was hard to watch. I don't know if that's because the controls are funky, the default controls are funky, or what. I'll be honest with you, I skipped a lot of the intro because I wanted to see gameplay rather than the actual story.
Can I ask you whether he was playing on an S or an X?
That's a good question. I actually didn't pay attention to that. I can go back and find the mirror that I used because obviously Bethesda was desperate to get it all off the internet pretty quickly.
Right. Because I'd be curious to. I'd be curious.
It's always on the internet, right?
Yeah, I'd be curious to find out. But I did get the impression that the characters looked plasticky when they showed their first graphics demo. I was like, the skin doesn't look. It looks. Like I feel like I'm watching old Doctor Who episodes when I look at that game. But. Yeah. Okay. So that's disappointing to hear they didn't change that. Go on.
Yeah. I mean, the lighting is really good, and I've seen several shots where they're on a planet here or they're in a spaceship there or whatever, and the atmosphere does look really good. So
Cool.
I have to be honest there. But the AI is dumb as fucking rocks. I'm talking like PlayStation 3 level retarded, and it's really unfortunate.
So it hasn't improved since Skyrim.
No, not at all. They're so dumb. Like there was one where he was fighting some people. He shot at one guy, and people complained about the Division having bullet sponge enemies.
Okay.
Whoa, this game seems to beat that. And maybe he just had a weak weapon. I can't really specify. I don't know.
Sure.
But it took him a long time to kill that guy with what seemed like a laser type weapon.
Okay.
Anyways. He ran up on the guy, punched him a few times, and then the guy was doing that thing where like they get stuck behind geometry, like undecided on what to do. Do I go behind the box or do I go in front? Kind of going back and forth.
Sure.
It did a lot of that. The AI was unfortunately poor. I haven't seen anything as far as like planet exploration. I have seen in the trailer he did the whole intro thing. The base he was on got attacked, and then they were like, something happened. Like I said, I skipped through the story portions. I was looking for the gameplay aspect of it, and they were like, go away, more or less. And so he got on a ship and took off. And I mean, No Man's Sky must have just spoiled me rotten, because in this game it instantly goes to a loading screen and it takes a few seconds, and then you're in space, and then you saw space combat, which looked really good. I mean, it looked like as good as any other space game out there. So I really can't say anything negative about it. Everything I saw looked like what you'd expect into a space combat, space exploration, sailing around and all that fun stuff. But to me, No Man's Sky, being able to jump in that spaceship and then take off and watch the atmosphere change and finally leave, and it's so gorgeous. And in this game, it's a loading screen off the planet and a loading screen back onto the planet, and you have to like choose where you want to load into the game, and then you can explore. Which leads us to the next thing about the game that really upsets me, because Pete Hines and Todd Howard and various other people at Bethesda had said on Twitter, like straight up on Twitter, some guy asked and messaged, I think it was Pete Hines. He basically said, can I explore freely on these planets? Are they full planets and I can just do what I want to, say, such as No Man's Sky? And he said, have at it. Walk to your heart's content. And since then, it came out that there's no vehicles on land. There's no land vehicles whatsoever. And it turns out the reason why there isn't, at least I'm extrapolating this information.
Okay.
The reason why there isn't is because when you land, you have a bubble around your spaceship and you can't travel outside that bubble. And the information on the leaks appears to be roughly 40 minutes of walking time. You can't go 40 minutes, which is obviously not 40 minutes. It's going to be a distance of some sort.
Sure,
but,
right, yeah. So,
yeah.
Even though they said walk to your heart's content, they've kind of stepped that back and scaled it back quite a bit, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the only thing I can think about that is maybe that perhaps allows them to have, essentially, outside of that bubble, the game won't load as well. As what I mean by that is like the graphics and all the AI would take to run fauna and flora and things of that sort. They can essentially get rid of that and therefore put that processing power into what's close to your ship. And so what you can do is, if you get to that bubble, you then have to get back to your ship. You can take off, which is another loading screen, move outside of that bubble that you were in, land somewhere else, and then continue to explore. So essentially, but you have to load back in to do it. So it's 2 loading screens. And like, to me, that seems extremely limiting. And I don't like it.
So, all right. So just so we're clear, what you're saying is you can land on a planet, you have a bubble you can explore, and then you can go to another portion of the planet, but you have to get back in your ship and land somewhere else. Yes, okay, that completely kills...
It kills the exploration aspect. But what's worse is if you go to that bubble, you then have to turn your ass around and walk that same 40 minutes back to your ship to get back into it.
So that completely kills what my thought process was when you initially started talking about this. Is my thought was, okay, maybe from a narrative standpoint, this makes sense. And the reason I would say that, try to give them a little bit of grace, I guess, is if it was a sense where, okay, you've got a range that you could land on any planet, right? They don't want you, my thought process was, they don't want you to miss content because you didn't find it exploring the planet. But that completely goes out the window if you could just get back in your ship and go to a different point of the planet. Like that completely kills that train of thought, which would, if that was the case, I could respect and understand. Like, No Man's Sky is great, but the content is what you create in No Man's Sky. With a narrative, with a story game like Starfield, it would make sense to scale that back and give you, this is the section of the planet you can land on. Kind of the way Mass Effect did, right? Like, you could land, you'd take the Mako out. I think it was the Mako, right? Whatever the rover was, you take the Mako out, but it was a slice of the moon or the planet or the asteroid or whatever you landed on.
Small section.
Right, which makes sense to make that larger because we have more modern tech, we can push crazier stuff, but still have it small enough that, like, you're not wandering the wilderness finding nothing. But again, that goes completely out the window when you say, well, you can just get in your ship and go somewhere else. I literally didn't play 2042 because I had to load a cutscene to load another cutscene to load a menu to load another cutscene. So, like, as a player who that is not okay, Starfield. Not okay.
Yeah, it's like I said, I'm assuming it's to make the game look and run better for the area that you're in, which ultimately is nice because that means the game's going to look better, it's going to run better, so on and so forth, and your experience while in even that small bubble, not really small bubble, but in that bubble, it's going to be better. But just the fact that you have to stop, turn around, get back in your ship, go to a loading screen, check somewhere else on the planet you want to land, and then land again, and then start it all over. There's something that breaks the immersion in that.
So Mike said,
"No Man's."
Mike in chat said, hopefully a modder will say fuck that and figure out a way around it. Yeah. And that has some basis in reality because one of my favorite mods for Skyrim is the no loading screen mod. It literally deletes the loading screen so you walk straight from the overworld into Whitefall and like all the other towns and stuff like that. Now, whether or not that would work for Starfield, I don't know. But I could see it potentially skipping it somehow. But again, that's going to be a PC thing. So, like, console players are still going to be... And the Xbox is, like, it's got an NVMe in, I think, only in the X series. I think the S has an SSD. So, like, even with that, you're looking at, God, maybe a minute, 2 minutes at most to load from one area to the next. And that just sounds annoying.
Yeah, last gen. which is actually something we're going to talk about the Series S a little bit later, but we're not there at the moment.
Yeah.
So if you continue on the Starfield stuff, the thing that like you mentioned story earlier, and I can see what you were talking about there. My mind was going towards, you have only so much air quality or whatever.
Yeah, you could narratively explain it that way too. Yeah.
That, yeah. Well, so here's something that I think it was Pete Hines again. I can't find his name at the moment, but one of the Bethesda guys. It was Pete Hines. Okay. He just said the other day, I think it was yesterday even. Yeah, no, it was today. Well, according to the Forbes article, it was written today. Anyways, so the game, he's saying that the storyline for this game is his favorite storyline in a Bethesda game ever. So hopefully that means it's good, right? But of course he's PR talking.
Right.
Take it with a grain of salt is what I'm saying. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be bad. However, he added this odd statement with it that I'm like, that sounds like a bad thing. His statement is quote, the game doesn't really start until after the main quest. And they've come out and said the main quest could take you up to 130 hours. And you're telling me I got to play through this for 130 hours before it gets good?
Yeah, that's not okay. I drop a game after an hour if it's not good. I'm trying to wonder if it's not necessarily a misquote, like I'm sure that's what he said, but I wonder if he just said it wrong. You know what I mean? Like maybe he means after a certain quest, or maybe he means after, the first big quest, or after you get your ship, like on a different foot, I would argue Final Fantasy XIV doesn't start until after you form the Grand Company. Because once you get your Chocobo, man, once you got mounts, the whole game is different. And that's like 20-ish hours of content in. So,
like that. Yeah. Well,
and that's a big difference between hundreds of hours or 180 hours or 100 hours and like 20 hours. Don't get me wrong. But like...
Yeah.
There's got to be... I want to give them the benefit of the doubt because I want to believe that Starfield is going to be a good game, but I'm not going into it blindly assuming it's going to be a good game, right? Like, I know Bethesda's track record. We all do. I assume it'll be enjoyable, but, like, the best thing Bethesda ever did was have Obsidian make Fallout New Vegas. So...
Yeah, more or less. More or less. So, like, after all of this stuff, I'm not, like, trying to down-talk Starfield.
Sure,
I expect it to be a good game. I expect a lot of people to love it. The fact that it's already going to have mod support, that's great. That means that their community can go, oh, great, another game that I can do whatever the fuck I want to with, because it is running on that standard engine that they use. I can't remember the name of it at the moment. The creation engine, I think is what they call it, which means that modders will know how to play with it, and they can do so much with it early, assuming they're using the same mod tools, but I can't imagine they won't be, because it is still using the Skyrim engine,
right?
Obviously modified and improved. Now, the thing that confuses me the most, which I'm sure it will only take a modder a minute to do this, but oddly enough, the game doesn't support DLSS, even on PC. Even though,
well, I mean, DLSS is only on PC. That's not a console thing.
I guess right. FSR is on consoles. FSR is, but DLSS is not. Anyways,
yeah.
So AMD actually came out and said that that's not our fault. Bethesda chose not to put it in for some reason, but they can anytime they want to.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that I'm kind of surprised they haven't done that, but. Maybe, like I said, I'll take a modder 5 seconds to toss it on there and just give some extra performance. So that's the last thing I'm really going to say about it, because we've been talking about it for a while, is Pete Hines, Todd Howard, they've said it's the most polished game ever, and we kind of laughed at that. It's a Bethesda game. Of course, it's not going to launch not broken.
Yeah. Yeah.
The footage I've seen, it actually doesn't look broken. I don't think I saw anything other than maybe some texture here and there.
Well, so I
didn't see anything.
A lot of the quote-unquote brokenness, especially in Skyrim, comes from systems in the game, not necessarily the game. Obviously, there's the infamous bee. But like it was systems.
Backwards flying dragons.
It was the big thing that was broken with Skyrim was you could literally enchant to ridiculous numbers. There was a way to literally break the system. So like it was more of a systems thing than it was just like, oh well, it's super glitchy, blah blah blah. Like you could literally break the game and make yourself Thanos snap people out of existence with your fingers. So it's more stuff like that I'm interested to see on how they do with the balancing and dealing with that. Mike says here that FSR is pretty great now, though, to be honest. I disagree. Tim and I actually talked about this when we were discussing Cyberpunk 2077's new expansion. I fucking hate both of them. I think they make way too much artifacting. They're great if you don't have a high-end card, don't get me wrong. Like, if you don't have a modern card, they're fantastic because they allow you to play games that you probably otherwise wouldn't be able to, and play it at a stable, good frame rate. If you have a modern card, dude, fuck those. Fuck DLSS, fuck FSR. They all make weird ass artifacting on shit. I remember playing The Last of Us on PC and it made the walls look like it was white noise for some stupid shit. Not a fan of them personally, but that's just my take. We should move on, however, to more of Gamescom. And speaking of Phantom Liberty, dude, did you watch the fucking trailer?
I'm telling you, the lot of what you saw includes DLSS. Though.
It's not about the graphics. It's about the content.
Yeah.
They finally, dude.
Yeah.
Oh my! I was juiced seeing a melee class that made sense. Like, that's, dude. I can't get over it. Like, I'm so stoked to play that game again and just go full melee Mantis Blades finisher mode. Like, I'm so juiced for that expansion, and for a lot of that content to come to the base game without the expansion is really fucking cool.
Yeah, I'm looking for it now. They had a list of everything that they've added to it.
Just a ton.
It's a pretty hefty list.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hefty list. But they actually added it in the trailer, so it's just, like bullet points.
Yeah, they added like relic legendary abilities. They revamped cyberware, so like it makes more sense. They rebalanced a lot of the perks, added new perks, added like you can deflect bullets with your katana. You can do like finisher attacks. You can vault off of a fucking motorcycle and just come down on somebody. Like, they made finishers for Mantis Blades. Like, dude, it looks so good. They've added car-to-car combat. They've revamped the police system, so there's like actually cop chases, all the like Need for Speed Hot Pursuit. Dude, I'm juiced to play it again. I really am.
It looks like a really cool thing. And those who haven't played the game yet, even if you don't buy the DLC, you get all of this stuff in the base game as well, other than, of course, the DLC storyline itself. So all of this stuff is coming to anyone who owns the game.
So just a correction there. It's not DLC. This is a full-blown expansion. It's not just like a couple extra missions. This is a real expansion. This is not like a couple extra missions. So I just want to be clear there. Like, there's a big difference between like DLC and expansion, at least in my head. It's just...
I personally, I think they're more synonymous these days. The expansions have basically disappeared other than for MMOs. But ultimately, yeah, it's not small. It's a large.
It's a big update. Yeah, it's a big update. Beyond that, I mean, there were some games that looked really good. I think we got very different opinions on this one. But Crimson Desert, I mean, it looks cool, but that game doesn't look like it knows what the fuck it's doing with itself. I gotta be honest.
Dude, it looks like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, but like good. Like, you've got the floating planets, you've got I would almost say GTA style. I would definitely say that because that's what Tears of the Kingdom did, or Breath of the Wild did. They basically took all of what worked in the open world genre and tried to throw them into their game, and it looks like this game is basically doing the same.
Yeah,
but in a way that just looks more interesting because you got a much deeper combat system and bigger world and better graphics and all that other fun stuff.
Yeah, it felt very, like, I'll be honest, like, everybody's like, oh, it's Assassin's Creed meets Red Dead. I didn't see anything in there that gave me a depth of story. Like, there was no content on what the story was. There was a ton of different, like, dude was skydiving and fucking flying and I'm like, is this a fantasy game? Is this a high fantasy? Is this low fantasy? What is going on? He's blowing shit up. Like, man was an F-16 in the air at one point. I swear to God, dude. Like, what the fuck did I watch?
Yeah, he turns into like a crow or some shit like that. It's basically the equivalent of the sailing cloth thing that most games have these days.
Yeah, it just...
So they actually haven't done an official, like, say, story trailer for it yet, but they have talked quite a bit about the story, say, on their website. If you go to crimsondesert.feralabyss.com, you can find it. So basically, the game originally started as not necessarily an expansion, but I think supposed to be a sequel to Black Desert, because it is the universe of Black Desert. But something happened in development, and ultimately it went from what was supposed to be some sort of co-op game to a single-player story-driven open-world game. And it's coming to consoles and PC. I highly doubt it's going to be on Switch, probably PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. But it's a single-player medieval war-torn fantasy realm that, where, like you said, kind of looks like they're doing a little bit of everything.
Yeah,
But the combat system looks to be one of the better ones.
It honestly looks like they're doing too much, in my opinion. But maybe once they give us some story, give us a story trailer, it'll make more sense. But it feels to me like just single player Black Desert. And I know it's the same devs, if I'm not mistaken. So yes. Like I get that that's their niche, but like I was watching it, I was like, this looks really cool, but like you said, it literally looks like they just took everything that's great in open world and threw it at the wall and is seeing what sticks. I'm not a fan. I'm a guy that's like, it's got to be. I'm a story guy. I've got to have engagement, right? Like, there's got to be a reason for me to do these things, to want to do these things, and it looks like.
Oh, of course, you can't just have content with no story.
Yeah, that's just my personal take. 100%. But it graphically looks great. The one thing I will say, way too much particle effects. Way too much. I hope you can tone that down, dude, because like every time he hit somebody with a sword, it was like just a little over the top on the particles.
I mean, it's gonna, if you get it on PC, which obviously is where you'd play it, and I'm sure you can turn it down. Particle effects always has a slider or something.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I'm always one of those people that kind of likes particle effects.
I do too.
At least ambient.
Yeah, I would tell you to go back and watch the trailer again and pay particular attention to the particle effects, and you will see how obnoxious they are. I like them. Don't get me wrong. I like them, but it's like garlic salt. The right amount of garlic salt is fucking perfect. Too much garlic salt and it's all you taste. You know what I mean? Like, it's that same idea.
So, like, it's like raiding with particle effects and character animations and the shit that goes along with their animations in a raid in Final Fantasy XIV.
Yeah, where all it is just
way too much shit.
I actually turned those off because it got way out of hand. But it's the same idea. Personally,
I didn't notice that as a problem. The trailer has me freaking stoked. I've been keeping an eye on the game.
Don't get me wrong.
Like 3 years ago, something like that. And it kind of disappeared after that. And at first, you could tell it was in its early stages because the frame pacing was pretty bad and there was a lot of clipping and all that other stuff. But since then, this trailer shows that they've expanded upon what the game, at least what they showed us initially, quite a bit.
Yeah.
And so I've been really looking forward to this for a while.
It looks beautiful. There's no argument for me there. I need story. I need to know why am I doing these things. So that's what I'm kind of holding back on for me personally. Personally, in this same idea of like high fantasy graphic genre, I thought Warhaven looked really fucking good. I don't know what the story is there, but the combat looked great. They did say multiplayer.
I'm pretty sure Warhaven is a 16v16 kind of like For Honor. I'm pretty sure it's like For Honor, but it's a Korean-based game, if I remember correctly. And
because I think it was Nexon, wasn't it? Was it Nexon who's making that one?
I'm pretty sure that's correct. And so therefore you've got that like Asian fantasy thrown in there, and from what I've read, it's just fucking chaos everywhere. Like you jump into a match and it's just nuts.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing because they didn't really specify in what I've read.
Yeah, I hope there's a story to it, honestly, because like that I'll check it out because that trailer looked cool, but at the same time like that I felt like For Honor was lacking in its story. It had a story. It had like the single player, but I wanted more. You know what I mean? Like 16v16 is cool, but I wanted story. And on that note, Fort Solis looked really cool too, but I pulled it up on Steam and it's already got mixed reviews, so that's a little concerning, but I thought it looked really fucking cool, and it's got Troy Baker, dude. Troy fucking Baker. So, I mean, that's Joel, and he's playing another J name. He's Jack, so...
that dude's everywhere.
Yeah.
Even when you don't realize it's him, he's probably there.
Probably.
Somehow.
So, I don't know. I think Gamescom showed us, at least the video I watched, I'm sure there's more that they showed. Oh, fuck, how could I forget, dude? Stalker 2. We finally fucking saw Stalker 2. I'm so juiced for that game. I am so fucking juiced for that game.
I never really got too deeply into the first one. I think it was too much for me at the time. And so I actually haven't watched the trailer for that one, oddly enough, because I looked through
It's
an article of everything announced, and I didn't see that. And I'm
it's
doing it again now.
yeah. I don't know if it was shown there, but I saw it. I saw it pop across my news feed when I was taking a break from work and drinking some water and trying to stay out of the smoke. Mike says I need to inject Stalker 2 into my veins. Same dude. So the cool thing with Stalker 2 is it's a sequel, but it's not a direct sequel. As far as I can tell, you're not playing as the same character from the first one, so you don't need to play 1 to play 2, which is great. It's fantastic, because 1 is a very niche game. Very niche
and
game.
And it's all the shit now, too.
It holds up okay. Like, it still looks okay.
It's not all about looks.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. You're right. It is aged. I wouldn't say it's as bad as The Witcher 1, but it's aged.
Fair enough.
But yeah, dude, I cannot fucking wait to finally play that game. I'm so glad that it's finally fucking coming. It looks great.
Which actually, didn't we talk about that the last episode where they said that it was still coming this year? And well, lo and behold.
I think we mentioned that like it hadn't been pushed back, but they hadn't shown anything. They did like one little anti-Russia ad thing that they did where they showed like it's a very short clip. I think he like pulled out an energy drink. It's like, oh fuck this shit, and like threw it at the wall and pulled out another one. Some shit like that, if I remember correctly. But until now, that was the only footage we had. Parallel universe / timeline ish, but separate story for sure. That's what Mike says. So yeah, dude, I'm
honestly, I think the next best thing at the game at the show was probably Black Myth Wukong. That game looks pretty fucking legit. When they first showed it off a couple years ago, it was like, holy shit, this is what a next gen game is going to look like. And while it might be a little bit toned down than what it was, either that or we've just gotten used to better graphics since then. Yeah. But it still looks like a pretty phenomenal.
It's a Souls-like, right?
I actually don't think it's more of a Souls-like. I think it's there's another game in the genre. Actually, they've made quite a few. It's Journey to the West, I think is what it's called. It's based on that. You know, the main character one, just like he is in those. And it does have larger than life bosses, but I don't believe it's supposed to be a Souls-like.
I wasn't sure. It is Unreal Engine 5, so that's cool. That game did look great. Our friend Denzel actually told me about that. Like 2 years ago. He was super juiced for it, and I looked it up, and it looked really fucking good. So yeah. Gamescom showed some good shit. I gotta say, the new Call of Duty, actually, I don't understand. At this point, I'm completely lost with their fucking naming system at this point. Call of Duty 3, but that came out in like 2009. It's a different Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, but it's the same name. It's not...
All of them. Yeah. All of the Modern Warfares are different stories. Yeah. It's essentially a different universe. Yeah. Like an alternate universe version.
It's fucking bizarre. I don't know why they did that and didn't just like... Whatever. I guess, when you've run a franchise this long, you kind of run out of names. But
I think they just took a play out of Microsoft handbook for naming conventions.
I just threw something just put a bunch of names on the wall and threw darts at them. Who knows what they did? But it looks good. I don't know that I still probably won't buy it because I'm pretty much past the Call of Duty games. But like graphically, it was pretty good. Gunplay looked good. It looked like Call of Duty. Open World Zombies has me interested, though. I will say that.
I have a tiny little bit to say about Call of Duty in the sense that when Modern Warfare 2 came out late last year, for some fucking reason, which I hadn't played the series in almost 10 years. I think it actually had been almost exactly 10 years at that point. For some reason, the game came out, and I'm like, I kind of want to play Call of Duty. So I went out and bought it. For some reason. It was fucking weird. There was no reason for me to do so.
Were you chugging monsters or something, bro? Were you really feeling it?
I have no idea, but for some reason I really wanted to play it. And I wanted to play the storyline, so I was like, well, fuck, I didn't play the first one. So I went out and bought the first one as well, so I could play through the storyline. So I was playing the storyline on number 1, and fuck me, it was actually really freaking good. And it hits you in the face pretty quick, too. One of the first missions, you're trying to stop a terrorist attack. Shit happens, and then you get into Britain. I think it's somewhere in London, I think. Anyway, you're trying to stop something, and then shit just fucking hits the fan so fast. You're like, oh my god. And at one point, Soap, you know who that is?
Yeah. He was from the original. Yeah.
You run into some people that are on like a like a balcony or something like that, and there's a whole bunch of people. One of them's got a bomb on his chest, and the guy's like, "I got a bomb, get it off me!" And so you like start playing with it, and Soap's like, "We don't got time, you got like 5 seconds," and throws the motherfucker off the balcony and explodes.
That sounds like Soap.
Oh my god, that is happening! And like the game does that a lot. Actually, there's a one point later in the game where you play a child and you start like stabbing people. It's they don't pull punches, and the storyline was actually really well put together.
Call of Duty has always had a really solid. Like I still when I wrote my review for Call of Duty Call of Duty World War II, when that one came out, I wrote that for a coin drop when that came out. The storyline for that game was fantastic. I didn't even play the multiplayer because the storyline was fucking amazing. So like, I wouldn't mind playing the Call of Duty games for the story because I know they're great. And I mean, to hear you sing its praises, that means it's really good. Yeah, that says a lot.
Yeah. Well, so like I could even say the multiplayer too. Not for Modern Warfare 1. I didn't play the Modern Warfare multiplayer.
Right.
But I did play 2 because a buddy of mine was at my house at the time. So we're like, fuck it, let's old school style split screen multiplayer.
Yeah.
And bro, it was like it went from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock in the morning in like 20 minutes.
Just like that.
Holy shit, dude! It was like back in the 1990s, but like 2010.
Yeah.
Again, that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
It was actually a lot of good fun, mostly because it wasn't all the bullshit like wall running and like Twitch shooter. It felt heavy. You actually had weight to it. You actually had to, basically have skill. You didn't have to just run around and 360 no scope everyone. It was actually a really good time. I really enjoyed it. So I'll probably pick up 3 as well. But I'll wait.
Yeah. So like Assassin's Creed, you'd say it went back to its roots.
Yes, I would say so.
Nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. I might have to check them out then. Mike singing Modern Warfare 2 2019 story was really good too. Also said that was Price, not Soap. But yeah, same idea.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Soap is in the second one.
Right. Anyways, I'm going to PAX next weekend. I am really hoping some of these games are there. I'd love to get my hands on them and get first person perspective on it. So fingers crossed.
I have one request. I have one request. Nightingale.
Yeah,
it's there.
Okay. I have a feeling that will be there. That did look interesting to me, but it's another open world survival game. But at the same time, it does look interesting. So if I see it, I will definitely do my best to check it out and play it. But I will see what's there, and we'll see what we can do. I'll have tons of business cards to hand out to people to try and promote this podcast. So if you're going, look for me at the entrance the first Saturday. It's not the first day. Look for me at the entrance Saturday. Pick up a business card. Say hi. Tell me that somebody listens to this somewhere. I'm looking forward to that. That'll be fun.
We haven't even talked about half the games that were at Gamescom. There were so many good things.
Yeah.
And honestly, I recommend just look at an article, like everything announced at Gamescom 2023, and you're going to be surprised. I mean, Killing Floor 3.
Yeah.
Armored Core 4 was shown off. You got
6.
They finally showed off
6. Armored Core 6. I was like 4, bro.
They showed off Grand Blue Fantasy Relink again, finally, and gave it a launch date. Yeah. That game looks phenomenal too, especially if you like anime games. Little
Nightmares 3 looks really cool. It's got co-op. I'm always down for co-op games. So some good stuff, some real good stuff.
It was definitely a worthwhile show, and as I said before this, Jeff Keighley, he's on the damn money, and he's got a absolute hold on announcing things. I don't know how he did it, but I think he's got 3 shows throughout the year now. He's got the Summer Game Fest, he's got Gamescom,
and the Game Awards.
The December show.
Yeah, Game Awards. Yeah.
And so far, the last 5 or 6 shows, so roughly 2 years worth, they've all been pretty damn good.
Yeah, he has a weird streak with extremists coming up on stage trying to like take the mic and say some stuff. I'm amazed security let that guy get that close. I was like, what the? Are you all fucking sleeping? What the fuck?
Yeah. That happened at the Game Awards last year, and it happened this time.
Yeah.
The last one, didn't they say like our Lord and Savior Joe Biden or something like that?
that was a different guy, but same
weird.
Whatever. Weird shit. At any rate, before we head off, we got one more quick topic to discuss. Project Q, which is Sony's handheld, has some new information.
Yes, it has an official name now. It's actually, oddly enough, it's the PlayStation Portal. So, the PSP. I understand why they went with Portal. mostly because it is, as we've talked about and as they announced before, it is a streaming device. It is a remote play device.
Yeah.
It is a DualSense controller that
Has a screen.
I think it's an 8-inch screen. I think it's an 8-inch screen, but it's an LED, not an LED, an LCD. LCD 8-inch screen that does 1080p, 60 FPS, and it's supposed to have the same battery life as a typical DualSense. And you can you can remote play the games that are locally installed on your console. So if there's any games that are streamed, so it doesn't do PlayStation Plus or PlayStation Now streaming, it does remote play from your PlayStation 5. So in order to be able to use this thing, you need to have a PS5, which means technically you need to have $700 spent on this thing minimum.
That said, it runs Android.
Yes, which opens up so many doors.
Yeah,
like
all of them.
You can play Starfield essentially on that. Yeah, all of them.
It opens all the doors, literally all the doors, because as we know, Android, Microsoft, or Windows, like all of those are Linux. They're all very easily crackable systems. What made even the PlayStation 3, I've got a jailbroke PS3 in my house, but because it's on Android, it's even fucking easier, which means if you want to play Pokemon Red and Blue, fucking load up that emulator.
Have at it. It does make me wonder though, is there going to be any onboard storage for you to download games, or are you going to have to stream from a local PC or something like that? Or since it's an Android, it should be moddable enough for you to be able to plug one in somewhere, some small storage.
Yeah. Mike says Game Pass on PSP, lols.
I mean, technically
yeah.
Wrong.
Yeah, technically you can.
It's not wrong. Yeah. It makes me wonder too, so I have my Steam Deck and I downloaded a what seems like the best version of Remote Play to the deck, and since the deck runs on a modified version of Linux, the Steam OS, it's not great. It does work and it's serviceable enough, but there's a lot of artifacting that pops up every once in a while. The whole screen will go green, and once I move or press pause or go back to the home screen and go back, it works again. It's fine, but the resolution's not super great. So anyways, my point is, Android, like, remote play from PC isn't great.
No. As somebody who has invested a lot in his networking setup and a set-top box to make it work so I can stream Diablo 4 from here or whatever game I'm playing from here to my living room so I can play, I have gigabyte internet speeds, and it, like, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with remote play, but it just does not work as well as it should.
It's only on PC though. Yeah. I've done a lot of research into it. Like, it works phenomenal on cell phones and stuff, which is weird as fuck to me.
Yeah.
But so this better well be a fucking perfect version. But since it's Android and like I just said, it works well on cell phones, then it should be phenomenal. It should be. And the cool thing is you don't have to be on the same home Wi-Fi as your console.
Right.
You take the portal with you somewhere else. You can play your system. So that sort of, to me, it sort of seems like it's going to be a really good companion device to the digital PlayStation 5, simply because, well, install it on your system and you don't ever have to worry about, fuck, I didn't put the disc in my PlayStation 5 before I left. It's just all on the console as it is.
Mike does mention it very likely has a CPU and RAM storage combo for just enough resources and cache to receive video and send button analog inputs, so you likely won't be playing anything locally. Now, that said, we know people love to hack shit. If there's any kind of USB port on that, I guarantee you somebody can turn that into some way to read data.
The DualSense is controlled by USB-C, so I can't imagine this one won't be charged the same way.
Yep. So
yeah, you can easily throw in some special device
or disassemble it. I think there was, what did I look at? There was something I looked at where it was literally like this guy opened up the device and then just flicked basically a built-in switch on this port, and it allowed him to like pass data as well as charge. So like some devices are literally that easy too. There's 100% also an Android built of Steam Link. So that's what I use on my NVIDIA Shield is Steam Link, because it is it's an Android app, so it works. Yep. If you can install that on your PSP, then you have Steam Play, remote play. So at least local. I don't know if that would work for a wide area network, but at least locally it would work. Anyway, I think that's pretty much all.
Really, the only thing we haven't said yet is a $200 device, and I think it's a bit much. But at the same time, I still kind of would be willing to spend $200 on it simply because, say my TV's halfway across the house and I'm in bed with the wife,
Yeah.
or I want to take my PlayStation 5 with me, I can wherever I go, I
Yeah.
travel or whatever it may be. And it seems, so long as it works well, yeah, I mean, it'd be great. I'll wait until after it comes out to make that decision. But
Yeah,
a lot of people are saying it's a potato. A lot of people are saying it's totally fucking worthless. But then again, you look in the comments. I look in the comments on Twitter of those people that say it's a potato, and everyone's like, "No, it'd be fucking great for me. I travel all the time, or whatever it may be." And it seems like there's going to be a market for this. And even though it technically is solving a problem that doesn't exist, it's just a really convenient device. I wish it was 150.
Well, it's a great device if you're already in the ecosystem too, right? Like even if you set the hacking jailbreaking aside, if you are a PlayStation guy who just wants this to play remotely, who does travel a lot, because there are people who travel a lot for work. I used to do it as well. It is great for that. It's fantastic for that, as long as you've got the Wi-Fi connection to make it work. So it's solving a problem that kind of exists if you don't want to invest the money in a Steam Deck, and maybe you want to play Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It's not on PC. Yeah. So, yeah, like, I see why Sony went this way. I'm curious to see what people do with it. I don't know that I'll ever pick it up. I don't use my Steam Deck enough as it is. So, I don't know. We'll see what they do.
I mean, I hope it works out for them, because if this does, then maybe that'll entice them to consider an actual handheld console in the future rather than a companion device, because I miss the PS Vita. That thing was fantastic, but I see why they wouldn't want to go that route, simply because they got a bad track record. I wouldn't even say it was a track record, because the what they made was phenomenal, but the problem is development costs for games on those systems was practically the same as a console. So it wasn't worth it.
Right. So I don't know, maybe this is them kind of testing the pool, seeing if it's warm enough to jump back in. Who knows? Good. But I think that's going to wrap it up for us. Tim, any final thoughts before we head over to our Patreon side?
There was so much news this week.
A stupid amount.
My head's been spinning.
We couldn't possibly cover it all. Just we could not. So
we'd have to have like a 4-hour long.
Yeah, and I can't afford. I can't afford that. That would eat up 2 months worth of freaking web hosting. I can't do all that. As it is, this is running a little bit long, but that's okay.
What I can say is that I've been on X, formerly Twitter. I don't know why I say it that way, but I do. I've been on Twitter a lot on CoinDrop_crew, and just tweeting the news and communicating with people and so on and so forth. I've been trying to get us a Twitter presence. So if you want to talk to us or me and or get the news as it pops up, because I do try to tweet the majority of things that I find interesting, or that anyone else might find interesting, come there and talk to me.
Or come to our Discord. Our Discord.
You've been discarded.
Discard. Come to our Discord. Check us out on our Patreon side. It's $3 for a membership on our middle tier. I think I have a 1, 3, and a 7 tier. It's cheaper than a cup of coffee a month, and you get an extra 15 minutes at minimum. Speaking of extra time, next week will either be our first official episode out of the beta, but if you do that, it's going to be with Tim and Mike. I will be at PAX. I won't be here. Won't be able to record. Going to be slammed. However, the following week I will return, and I will have just a stupid amount of news. So
plenty to talk about.
Yeah, plenty to talk about. Mike, if you're available, we'd love to have you on. The week following that, we may have a special guest to give us his opinion on Starfield. My boss is actually planning on picking it up and taking a couple days off to play. So we're going to see about possibly bringing him in and giving us his opinions on that game when I return the week after next. So thanks again for everyone listening. Sharing us, keep spreading the word, man. I'm seeing a lot more followers, a lot more viewers. We've got a couple of 5-star ratings on Spotify, which is really cool. So I just want to say I appreciate all of you guys that are out there kind of helping us grow. We love doing this, and God, one day I'd love to go back to conventions as media and not have to pay for them. So that would be fantastic. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you in the next one.
Have a good night.